Welcome back to the tranquil and unhurried space of still mind Dharma. This afternoon, amidst the relentless hustle of these late June days, do you happen to hear your own gentle sigh hidden somewhere beneath the chaos? It is a very soft sigh, slipping out when the night falls, when you lay your back against the bed, yet your chest remains heavy with unspoken anxieties, and your eyes stare blankly into the void. You are so very tired, aren't you? People in this world often fear illness, fear losing wealth, or fear the coldness of loneliness. Yet few realize that the most profound exhaustion does not stem from material deprivation, but from an inner world that is never allowed to rest.
Today, we might endure physical hardships, financial constraints, and workplace pressures, but the most agonizing burden is the unrelenting turbulence within our own hearts. We chase after the world's exhausting standards, only to let ourselves drown in the freezing currents of nameless sorrows. Tonight, please allow your entire being to completely let go. Let us sit down here, leaning on one another through each peaceful breath. Let us use the gentle warmth of mindfulness to soothe the raging torrents within you, to dispel the weary fog, and to softly guide you back to the still, tranquil lake that has always resided in the deepest depths of your soul.
Dear friend, we are living in an era where everyone is taught to run an endless race. We are terrified of being slower than others, terrified of inferiority, terrified of being left behind. And it is precisely these fears that deny our minds even a single moment of true rest. We mistakenly believe that poverty and material lack are the sole roots of our misery. But ask yourself, have you ever lain on an incredibly soft mattress, covered by a warm blanket, while inside your head an entire ocean is raging with violent storms? The truth is, a person can be materially poor, but if their mind is at peace, they will sleep soundly. Conversely, a person surrounded by wealth, but harboring a restless, resentful heart, will feel as though they are sitting on a bed of hot coals, even within a mansion.
When our minds resemble a river during flood season, churning violently with pressures, comparisons, and endless calculations, we unknowingly carry that fierce storm back to our own homes. There are people who return from work with hearts filled to the brim with stress, looking at everyone with irritation. A simple question from a child sparks annoyance, a harmless remark from a spouse triggers anger, and eventually, when everyone chooses silence, the house becomes chillingly cold. Sadly, many families do not shatter because of poverty. They shatter because of the heavy, wounding words spoken day after day. Muddy water is the result of constant stirring. Clear water is the reward of stillness. When the water of our inner world is continuously disturbed by greed, anger, and delusion, how can we possibly perceive the sparkling pebbles at the bottom, or reflect the gentle moonlight of family affection? The Buddha once compared the human mind to a lake. When the lake is agitated, the reflection of the moon is shattered. When the mind is unsettled, everything we see becomes distorted. A sincere piece of advice, filtered through the fog of resentment, suddenly sounds like a harsh insult. A normal glance, viewed through the muddy waters of doubt, is twisted into an expression of contempt.
In the ancient records of the Tang dynasty, there is a story of a famously righteous and uncorrupted official. He dedicated his entire life to taming the turbulent rivers of nature, building dikes to prevent floods, and caring for his people. Yet, in the twilight of his life, he found himself living in profound loneliness and torment. When asked why a man who had done so many good deeds still bore so much sorrow in his old age, the official remained silent for a long time before letting out a sigh that pierced the soul. He said that he conquered the world, but he never conquered his own mind. He could tame the most ferocious rivers of nature, but he was powerless against the hidden undertows of anger within his own heart. He spent countless nights lying awake, tormented by a single angry word he had carelessly thrown at a loved one. For there are things that once lost to the rushing currents can never be retrieved in this lifetime.
You see, illness enters through the mouth, and disaster exits through the same door. But the eternal root lies within the mind. An agitated mind produces agitated words. A fiery mind produces fiery words. When the mind is filled with resentment, the eyes lose their gentleness. We throw the sharp stones of anger into the calm lake of our families, only to endure the painful ripples that crash back onto us. Many mistakenly believe that hurling bitter words will release their frustration. But anger is like picking up a burning coal to throw at someone else. The first person to suffer the burns is you. You might win a fierce, cascading argument, but when the waterfall of your rage recedes, all that remains is a freezing emptiness and the desolate wasteland of shattered relationships.
Modern life surrounds us with a chaotic flood of information, turning our minds into a foggy labyrinth with no way out. We spend hours scrolling through the lives of strangers, drowning in a sea of meaningless noise, yet we cannot spare a few minutes of quiet to listen to our own breath or to hear the spouse or child sitting right next to us. Our bodies are present, but our minds drift away to a harbor of regretful pasts or are swept away by the murky currents of an anxious future. And because of this, our hearts are forever exhausted and insecure.
There are times when you just want to thrash against adversity, wanting to control everything around you. But remember, if a lake is already churning, pouring in even the most precious water will only make it muddier. Healing never comes from trying to outrun the storm or attempting to drain the ocean. It begins when you decide to step onto the shore and silently observe the flowing water. You do not need to become a flawless saint who never feels anger. For as long as we live this human life, we will experience joy, sorrow, love, and resentment. The goal is not to force the lake to never ripple, but to recognize the waves when they arise. You simply acknowledge that you are angry, that you are tired, that you are lost. In the exact moment you recognize the storm, the fog begins to dissipate.
There will come a day, after enduring countless storms, when you realize that the most precious thing in life is not how many people you have defeated, but whether, after everything, your heart remains gentle enough to love. At a certain age, we all come to understand that a peaceful night's sleep is worth far more than holding on to a bitter grudge. This life is profoundly impermanent. We may greet each other in the morning, and by sunset, we may be separated forever. We have carried too much, gripping so tightly to harsh words and boulders of resentment, inadvertently sinking the boat of our lives in the middle of a rushing rapid. But you know, the past has already flowed downstream. The future has not yet arrived, and the present is the only place where we truly live. Therefore, letting go is never an act of weakness. Letting go at the right moment is a profound manifestation of strength, a way to pull yourself out of the floodwaters of endless suffering. To achieve this, you do not need to search in distant lands. When your mind begins to cloud over like a foggy morning, when you feel your chest tightening with an impending wave of anger or anxiety, practice a beautifully simple act of mindfulness. Return to your breath. The Buddha taught that the breath is the sacred bridge
connecting the body and the mind. When your heart is a tangled mess, return to your breath. Breathe in slowly, breathe out deeply. Every time anger rises, stand still for 3 breaths, just 3 breaths. Those 3 breaths are enough to smooth the turbulent surface of the lake, enough to save a lifetime from belated regrets. When eating, know that you are eating. When walking, know that you are walking. When sad, know that you are sad. When angry, know that you are angry. Simply recognizing that your mind is in motion means the door to awakening is still wide open. Allow yourself to step back, to sit in silence, to take a sip of warm tea, and remind yourself, emotions are like bubbles on the surface of a lake. They form and they pop. Nothing lasts forever. When your mind begins to quiet down, the residue of sorrow will naturally settle, returning to you an inner world that is crystal clear and illuminated with wisdom.
The darkness outside is gradually surrendering to the profound stillness of the night. And perhaps the lake within your mind has also grown a little calmer. If these whispered words tonight from Still Mind Dharma have felt like a cool stream, washing away some of your exhaustion and insecurities, please linger for one more breath. Smile gently and bravely leave a comment below, writing down the worries, the stubbornness, or the silent griefs that you are determined to drop to the very bottom of the lake tonight. Do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as a way of planting a drop of compassionate connection into the water of this life, so that we may continue to sit together and lean on one another in our upcoming journeys towards peace. We sincerely thank you for your precious time and for accompanying us. May the lake of your mind no longer ripple with the burdens of the past, wishing you a deep, soothing sleep, so that when you wake up tomorrow morning, you are greeted by a soul that is light, unhurried, and utterly free amidst the ever-changing tides of heaven and earth.